The boardroom fell silent as Whitney slid the manila envelope across the polished mahogany table. My heart stopped when I saw the return address, a law firm in Singapore. After 15 years of silence, my father was making his move. I'm Reese, CEO of Schmidt Textiles, though some days I still feel like that 16-year-old girl watching her father pack his bags in the middle of the night. The memory hits me at the strangest times. The smell of rain on asphalt, the sound of wheels on hardwood floors, my mother's quiet sobs from the kitchen. They're requesting financial records going back 5 years, Whitney said, her voice cutting through my thoughts, and a full audit of company holdings. I forced myself to breathe normally as I scanned the documents. He's got some nerve, showing up now that we've turned things around. The board needs to know, Whitney warned, before the rumors start flying. She was right, of course. Whitney had been my rock through the company's transformation. From the struggling workshop my mother ran to the international brand we'd built, she knew exactly what this meant. The vultures were circling. Call an emergency meeting, I said. Today, 3 hours later, I stood before our board members, my mother's old sewing scissors hanging from a chain around my neck. They were my good luck charm, a reminder of where we started. Ladies and gentlemen, I began, I've called you here because my father, Philip Schmidt, has made contact through his attorneys. The room erupted in whispers. Caleb, our senior board member, leaned forward. What exactly does he want? What he always wanted? Money without the work. I projected the financial charts onto the screen behind me. In the 15 years since he abandoned this company, we've grown from a local textile workshop to a global enterprise worth over $50 million. Now he's claiming his share. Does he have any legal standing? Teddy, our legal counsel, asked. That's what we need to determine. I clicked to the next slide. But I want to be clear. I will not let him destroy what we've built. My mother spent nights at that sewing machine while he was living it up with his secretary in Asia. Every thread of this company's success was earned through our sweat, not his. Samara, our youngest executive, raised her hand. What's our PR strategy if this goes public? Transparency, I replied. We tell our story. How a single mother and her daughter turned a failing business into an empire. How every employee in this room contributed to that success. The meeting continued for another hour, but I barely heard the discussions. My mind kept drifting to that rainy night, to the sound of his car pulling away, to my mother's face as she picked up her scissors the next morning and got back to work. After the meeting, Whitney caught up with me in the hallway. You okay? I have to stop by Mum's tonight, I said, fingering the scissors at my neck. She needs to know. Want me to come with? I shook my head. This one's on me, but I need you to start digging. My father didn't spend 15 years in Asia just sightseeing. There's something else going on here. Already on it, Whitney smiled. Teddy's reaching out to his contacts in Singapore. That evening, I sat in my mother's kitchen, watching her prepare dinner like she had thousands of times before. Her hands were still steady, still strong from years of guiding fabric through machines. I always knew he'd come back, she said, not looking up from the vegetables she was chopping. Men like your father, they can't stand to see others succeed where they failed. Mom, I'm so sorry, she set down her knife. Don't you dare apologize for him. You built something beautiful from his mess. Now he wants to take credit? She reached across the counter and grabbed my hand. Show him exactly who you've become. I squeezed her hand, feeling the calluses earned from years of work. I will. My phone buzzed. A text from Whitney. Found something. Meet me at the office first thing tomorrow. You need to see this. I looked at my mother, remembering how she'd taught me to thread a needle in this very kitchen, how to make something whole from broken pieces. He's not getting a single thread, I promised her. She nodded, a fierce pride in her eyes. Then you better get to work. As I drove home that night, the rain started again, just like it had 15 years ago. But this time, I wasn't that helpless teenager watching her world fall apart. I was Reese Schmidt, and I was ready for war. Whitney's discovery couldn't wait until morning. I found her in the office at midnight, surrounded by stacks of papers and empty coffee cups. The moment I walked in, she thrust a folder into my hands. "Look at the signature dates," she said, pointing to a series of documents. "Your father's been planning this for months." Before I could respond, the security desk called. "Ms. Reese, there's someone here to see you." My blood ran cold. I knew who it was before the guard finished speaking. "He's not on the approved list, but he says he's your father." Whitney grabbed my arm. "You don't have to see him." "Yes, I do." I straightened my blazer. "Send him up." 5 minutes later, I watched him walk through the door. 15 years had turned his hair grey and carved deep lines around his mouth. But his swagger hadn't changed. He still moved like he owned the room. "Hello, sweetheart," he said, arms open as if expecting a hug. I stayed behind my desk. "It's Ms. Schmidt in this building." He laughed, dropping his arms. "Always so serious. Just like your mother." His eyes swept the office, taking in the awards on the walls, the view of the city. "You've done well for yourself. Though I suppose I should say ourselves. This is still a family business, after all." "Family?" I couldn't keep the bitter laugh from escaping. "Is that what you call disappearing with your secretary for 15 years? Lorelei was a mistake," he said, settling uninvited into one of my visitor chairs. "I've come to make things right." Whitney stepped forward. "By demanding company records? By threatening legal action?" "Ah, Whitney." He smiled at her. "Still playing guard dog, I see. I taught you better than that." "You taught me plenty," Whitney shot back. "Like how to spot a con artist." His smile tightened. "I'm here to talk to my daughter, privately." "She stays," I said. "Now, what do you want?" He pulled out a thick envelope. "I've had my accountants review the company's public filings. Very impressive growth. But as a founding member of Schmidt Textiles, I'm entitled to my share." "Your share?" I stood up, bracing my hands on the desk. "Your share walked out the door with you 15 years ago, remember? The night you cleaned out the business account and left Mom with nothing but debt and a mortgage. Ancient history," he waved his hand dismissively. "I'm offering you a chance to avoid an ugly legal battle. 25% of current company value, plus a board seat." Whitney snorted. "You're delusional." "I built the foundation of this company," he said, voice hardening. "Everything you've accomplished started with my work, my connections." "Your work?" I grabbed my mother's scissors from around my neck, slamming them onto the desk. "These scissors built this company. Mum's hands built this company. While you were living it up in Asia, she was working 18-hour days to keep the lights on. Where were your connections then?" He stood slowly, straightening his expensive suit. "I see you need time to think this through. My lawyers will be in touch." He headed for the door, then paused. "Oh, and sweetheart, don't bother digging into my business dealings abroad. Some doors are better left closed." After he left, Whitney touched my shoulder. "You okay?" I realized I was shaking. "He's broke. Did you see his watch? It's a fake. The suit too. Good knockoff, but I know our fabrics. He's desperate." "That makes him dangerous," Whitney warned. "What did he mean about his business dealings?" I picked up my mother's scissors, running my finger along the blade. "It means we're looking in the right place. Call Teddy. Tell him to focus on Singapore, especially the last 2 years. My father didn't come back because he missed us. He came back because he needs something." "Reese," Whitney hesitated. "Are you sure you want to do this? Fighting him could get ugly." "Ugly?" I laughed. Ugly was watching Mom cry herself to sleep every night. Ugly was working after school to help pay bills while my friends went to parties. He wants ugly? I'll show him ugly. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. "Everything okay?" I typed back. "He was here. I'm handling it." Her response came quickly. "Remember who you are. You're stronger than his games." I looked at the scissors on my desk, then at Whitney. "Get some sleep. Tomorrow we start digging. I want to know everything. Where he's been, who he's worked with, what he's hiding. He thinks he can walk back in here and take what we built. He has no idea what I'm capable of." Whitney gathered her things, then paused at the door. "Just Don't lose yourself in this, okay? But as I stared out at the city lights, I wondered if I hadn't lost something already. The daughter who once longed for her father's approval was gone. In her place stood someone harder, someone ready to fight fire with fire. I picked up my phone and texted Teddy, "Whatever it takes, find what he's hiding." Teddy burst into my office 3 days later, waving a stack of papers. "You're not going to believe what I found." I muted my video call. "Give me 2 minutes." "Now, Reese, trust me." Something in his voice made me end the call immediately. "What is it?" He spread the documents across my desk, bank statements, contracts, and what looked like police reports in multiple languages. "Your father's been busy in Asia, very busy, and not in a good way." Whitney walked in as Teddy was explaining. "Those textile factories he claimed to be partnering with? They don't exist. He's been running a sophisticated import scam, using fake companies to launder money." "For who?" I asked, scanning the papers. "That's where it gets interesting," Teddy said. "Remember that big textile consortium that tried to buy us out last year? Guess who was feeding them inside information about our operations?" My stomach dropped. "My father. Bingo. He's been working as their consultant, helping them target family-owned businesses for hostile takeovers. But here's the kicker. He's been skimming from them too, and they just figured it out." Whitney picked up one of the documents. "Is this why he came back? He needs a safe harbor." "More than that," Teddy said. "He needs legitimate business credentials to avoid prosecution in Singapore. A board position here would give him exactly that." I sat back, letting it sink in. "So he's not just after money. He needs us to save him from his own mess." "There's more," Teddy hesitated. "I found Lorelei." My head snapped up. "His secretary?" "Ex-secretary," Whitney corrected. "She's back in the States, working at a small accounting firm in Boston." "She might know things," I said slowly. "Details that aren't in these papers." "Already ahead of you." Teddy handed me a business card. "She's expecting your call." I stared at the card, remembering the last time I'd seen Lorelei, young, beautiful, hanging on my father's arm as they walked out of our lives. Now she might be the key to stopping him. "I'm flying to Boston," I announced, standing up. "Reese, wait." Whitney grabbed my arm. "Think about what you're doing. This isn't just business anymore. You're talking about destroying your father." "He destroyed himself," I snapped. "I'm just making sure he doesn't take us down with him." "Is that really what this is about?" she challenged. "Or are you still trying to punish him for leaving?" Before I could answer, my phone rang. It was Caleb from the board. "Reese, we have a situation. Your father just called an emergency board meeting for tomorrow morning. Says he has evidence of financial misconduct by current management." "He's bluffing," I said, but my voice shook. "Maybe," Caleb replied, "but he's convinced 2 other board members to support his motion for a leadership review." I hung up and looked at Whitney and Teddy. "Change of plans. Book me on the next flight to Boston. I need to talk to Lorelei tonight." "I'm coming with you," Whitney said firmly. "No, I need you here. Work with Teddy, prepare a response to whatever accusations my father's cooking up, and get our PR team ready. This is about to get messy." 3 hours later, I sat in a quiet Boston coffee shop, watching Lorelei walk through the door. She'd aged like we all had, but gracefully. She spotted me immediately. "You look just like your mother," she said, sliding into the seat across from me. "Why did you agree to meet me?" She pulled out her own stack of papers. "Because it's time someone stopped him, and because I owe you and your mother an apology that's 15 years overdue." "I don't want your apology," I said. "I want information." "How about both?" She pushed the papers toward me. "These are copies of every transaction, every scheme, every lie he's told for the past 15 years, including what he's planning to do to your company." I leafed through them, my hands trembling. "Why are you giving me this?" "Because I was young and stupid once, and I believed his promises. By the time I realized what kind of man he really was, I was in too deep. This is my chance to make it right." My phone buzzed. Another text from Whitney. "Your father's called a press conference for tomorrow afternoon. Whatever you're going to do it fast." I looked back at Lorelei. "I need you to tell me everything, and then I need you to repeat it to my board." She nodded, pulling out a recorder. "Where should I start?" "Start with Singapore," I said, thinking of my mother's scissors hanging around my neck. "Start with the truth." I barely made it back to the office before dawn, clutching Lorelei's documents like a shield. Whitney was waiting in the lobby, dark circles under her eyes matching mine. "Your father's already here," she said, falling into step beside me. "He's in the boardroom with Caleb and 2 other directors." "Perfect." I pulled out my phone and dialed. "Lorelei, you're on speaker. Are you ready?" "Ready." Her voice crackled through the line. "The video conference link is set up." We pushed through the boardroom doors. My father stood at the head of the table looking smugly confident in another knockoff suit. His smile faltered when he saw me. "Sweetheart, this is a private meeting. Cut the act," I interrupted, connecting my laptop to the room's display. "Everyone, I'd like you to meet Lorelei Santiago. You might remember her as my father's former secretary." Lorelei's face appeared on the screen, and I watched my father's complexion turn ashen. "Hello, Philip," she said coldly. "Shall I tell them about the factories in Singapore? Or would you prefer to start with the money laundering?" "This is ridiculous," he sputtered, reaching for his briefcase. "I won't stand here and listen to—" "Sit down," Caleb commanded. "I think we all need to hear this." For the next 30 minutes, Lorelei laid it all out. The fake companies, the stolen funds, the insider trading. With each revelation, my father seemed to shrink in his chair. "That's enough," he finally shouted, standing up. "These are baseless accusations from a disgruntled ex-employee." I pulled out the documents. "Everything she's saying is right here. Bank statements, contracts, even photos. Would you like to explain this one?" I held up a picture of him shaking hands with the CEO of our biggest competitor. This was taken 2 days before they tried to hostile take over our company last year. The boardroom erupted in angry murmurs. Caleb snatched the photo, his face reddening. "You were working against us the entire time," he demanded. "It's not what it looks like," my father protested. "I was gathering intelligence. For them," I cut in, "while taking a percentage of every deal, until they caught you skimming extra off the top." Whitney stepped forward with another document. "This is a warrant for your arrest in Singapore. Fraud, embezzlement, corporate espionage. Is this why you really came back? Hoping to hide behind our company's reputation?" My father's facade finally cracked. "You don't understand. These people, they're dangerous. I needed protection." "So you thought you'd sacrifice our company to save yourself?" I leaned across the table. "Just like you sacrificed our family 15 years ago." "I made mistakes," he admitted, his voice breaking. "But I'm still your father." "No," I said quietly. "You're just a man who taught me exactly what kind of person I never want to be." Caleb cleared his throat. "I move to reject any and all claims Philip has made against this company and its current management, and to formally bar him from any future association with Schmidt Textiles." "Seconded," another director called out. "You can't do this," my father pleaded. "I helped build this company." "And we rebuilt it after you destroyed it," I replied. "The vote, please?" It was unanimous. As security arrived to escort him out, my father turned to me one last time. "You'll regret this, Reese. You have no idea what you're dealing with." "Actually, I do." I held up my mother's scissors. "I'm dealing with a coward who's run away from every hard thing in his life. But I'm not running, Dad. I'm standing right here, protecting what matters." After he was gone, Caleb approached me. "We should discuss damage control. If this gets out—" "When?" I corrected. "When this gets out. We're going to tell the whole story. No more hiding, no more secrets." "It could hurt the company's stock price," Whitney warned. "Maybe, but I'd rather take a temporary hit than live with lies." I turned back to the screen where Lorelei was still watching. "Thank you for everything." She nodded. "Take care of your mother. She deserves to know she raised one hell of a daughter." After the board dispersed, Whitney stayed behind. "You okay?" "No," I admitted, "but I will be." I picked up my phone to call my mother, then paused. He was right about one thing, though. Those people he was working with in Singapore, if they're as dangerous as he says. Already on it, Whitney assured me. Teddy's working with our security team to upgrade protocols, and Caleb's reaching out to his contacts in international banking to protect our assets. I looked around the boardroom, thinking of all the meetings my father must have held here years ago, all the deals and decisions that shaped our company's early days. You know what's funny? I said. He spent 15 years chasing schemes and shortcuts, and all he had to do was stay here and do the work. Whitney squeezed my shoulder. Come on, let's go tell your mother she doesn't have to worry about him anymore. But as we left the boardroom, I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't over. My father's last words felt less like a threat and more like a warning. The news broke faster than we expected. By evening, every business channel was running the story. Schmidt Textiles CEO exposes father's international fraud scheme. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing with notifications. I was at my mother's house when the first real trouble hit. Teddy's call interrupted our dinner. Turn on the news, he said urgently. Your father's giving a press conference. Mom and I watched in stunned silence as my father stood before a crowd of reporters, looking appropriately devastated in what I noticed was finally a real designer suit. My daughter's accusations are a sad attempt to rewrite history, he said, his voice trembling perfectly. Yes, I made mistakes as a young man, leaving my family. But I've spent 15 years building legitimate businesses in Asia, only to have my own daughter fabricate evidence to destroy me. He's good, Mom muttered, pouring more wine. Always knew how to play the victim. My phone rang again, Whitney this time. Our stock's down 12% in after-hours trading. The board's panicking. Call an emergency meeting for tomorrow morning, I started, but Mom grabbed my phone. No more meetings tonight, she said firmly. Whitney, tell the board to wait. Mom, You need to breathe. She turned off my phone. You're playing his game now, rushing around, reacting to every move. That's exactly what he wants. What choice do I have? He's destroying everything we built. No, she said quietly. You're letting him destroy your peace. Again. She walked to her sewing room and returned with an old leather portfolio. Remember this? I opened it carefully. Inside were the original sketches for our first successful clothing line, the one that saved the company after he left. You were 16, Mom continued. Everyone said we were finished, but you sat at this table every night drawing these designs, planning our future. You weren't angry then. You were determined. That was different. Why? Because now you have more to lose. She took my hands. Or because now you have the power to hurt him back. Before I could answer, someone pounded on the front door. Through the window, I saw reporters gathering on the lawn. Ms. Schmidt, can you respond to your father's allegations? Is it true you fabricated evidence? Did you orchestrate this scandal to maintain control of the company? Mom calmly drew the curtains. Remember when you were learning to sew? What did I always tell you? Measure twice, cut once, I replied automatically. Exactly. Right now, you're cutting without measuring. Fighting fire with fire might feel good, but it burns everything down. My emergency phone, the one Whitney insisted I keep on, buzzed with a text. It was from an unknown number, but I knew who it was. Meet me at the old workshop. Just you. 1 hour. Dad. Mom read the message over my shoulder. Are you going? I have to know what he's planning, she nodded slowly. Then remember who you are. Not just my daughter or his daughter. Remember the woman who built an empire from scraps? The old workshop was dark when I arrived, but I could see his silhouette through the dusty windows. Inside, he stood among the abandoned sewing machines, looking oddly vulnerable. Nice press conference, I said. The suit's real this time. Had to look the part. He gestured around. Remember when this place was everything? It still is. Everything you threw away. I didn't come to fight, he sighed. I came to make a deal. Another one, like the deals you made in Singapore. Those people, they're coming here, Reese. They're not just after me anymore. The company's fourth quarter projections, the new factory contracts, they know everything. I felt cold. What have you done? I can help you stop them. but I need something in return." "Of course you do." I turned to leave, but his next words froze me in place. "They have proof that some of our early funding came from questionable sources that could implicate your mother." I spun back. "You're lying." "Am I? Where do you think I got the money to start this company? Those first few years. Did you never wonder?" My hands shook as I grabbed my mother's scissors from around my neck. "Get out." "Think about it," he said, heading for the door. "You have until tomorrow. After that, everything burns." I stood in the dark workshop long after he left, running my fingers along the old machines. Mom was right. I had been playing his game, letting anger drive every decision. My phone buzzed again. "Whitney, you okay? Tracked your phone to the workshop." I texted back, "Call Teddy and Caleb. Meeting at my place in an hour. Time to stop reacting and start planning." Looking around one last time, I made a promise to the 16-year-old girl who once sketched designs here by flashlight. This time, we wouldn't just survive my father's chaos. We would end it. "He's lying about Mom," I announced to the group gathered in my living room. "He has to be." Teddy spread files across my coffee table. "Maybe, but we need to be sure. Those early company records are spotty at best." "I've been going through everything," Whitney added. "There's a 6-month period where the financial records just don't add up. Right after your father started the company." Caleb leaned forward. "What kind of numbers are we talking about?" $500,000, Whitney said quietly. "Appeared out of nowhere in 1992. My stomach churned. "That's impossible. Mom would have known." "Would she?" Teddy asked gently. "Your father handled all the finances back then, right?" Before I could respond, my doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw my mother, holding a familiar metal box. "I heard you were all meeting," she said, walking in. "Thought you might need this." She set the box on the table and opened it. Inside were stacks of yellowed papers, receipts, and photographs. "Mum, what is this?" "Everything I never told you about your father's startup money." She pulled out a document. "I kept copies of everything. Call it insurance." Whitney grabbed the paper, her eyes widening. "This is a loan agreement with the same people he's working with now," Mum finished. "Yes, but look at the last page." Teddy flipped to it and whistled. "You bought out the loan, in cash." "Every penny," Mum nodded. "Sold my parents' house, my car, even my wedding ring. Paid them off before you were old enough to remember, Reese. Your father never knew." "But why keep it secret?" I asked. "Because men like your father, men like his business partners, they only have power if you're afraid of them." She touched my cheek. "I wanted you to build this company without fear." Caleb stood up. "This changes everything. If we can prove you cleared that debt, we can prove his current threats are empty," Whitney finished. "But what about his other claims? The evidence he says he has?" Mum pulled out her phone. "Call Lorelei. She needs to hear this too." 20 minutes later, Lorelei's face filled my laptop screen. When Mum showed her the documents, she started laughing. "Oh, Philip," she said. "He never knew about this. No wonder they're so angry with him. He's been promising them leverage he doesn't have." "What do you mean?" I asked. "Those dangerous people he's working with. They funded several companies over the years. Their standard practice is to keep partial ownership, hidden in the paperwork. They think they still own part of Schmidt Textiles through that original loan." "But they don't," Teddy grinned. "Because you bought them out, Leah. Legally and completely." "We need to move fast," Whitney said. "Your father's press conference brought him sympathy. The market's nervous." "Then we end this tomorrow," I decided. "Mum, will you testify to the board?" "Better," she smiled. "I'll testify to the world. Time everyone knew what really happened after your father left." We worked through the night, building our case. Around 3 a.m., my phone buzzed with a text from my father. "Time's running out, made your decision." I showed it to Mom. She took my phone and typed, "Meeting tomorrow 9 a.m. Bring your friends." "Mom," I protested, "we can't let those people." "Yes, we can," she said firmly, "because this time we're ready for them." Dawn found us still planning. Whitney passed out coffee while Teddy rehearsed Mom's statement. Caleb worked the phones, ensuring every board member and key shareholder would attend. One thing bothers me, Lorelei said from the screen. Your father's too confident. He must have something else planned. He does, I realized suddenly. Whitney, remember those contracts he was looking at during the hostile takeover attempt? The ones about voting rights? But those were rejected. Check again. He had access to our systems for years. What if he changed something? Teddy's fingers flew over his laptop. Got it. There's a buried clause about proxy voting in crisis situations. If the company faces criminal investigation, the board can be temporarily suspended, Caleb finished, leaving control to the original founders. He's going to try to force an investigation, I said. That's his play. Mom picked up her old scissors from the table, testing the blade. Then we better make sure our cut is clean and final. As everyone gathered their things to prepare for the morning, Mom pulled me aside. Whatever happens tomorrow, she said, remember what these scissors taught us. A straight cut, made with confidence, can't be undone. I hugged her tight. I love you, Mom. I love you too, she whispered. Now let's go show your father what real business looks like. The boardroom was packed. News cameras lined the back wall, their red lights blinking like warning signals. My father sat at one end of the table, flanked by two men in expensive suits who radiated quiet menace. I recognized them from Lorelei's photos, the real power behind his schemes. Before we begin, my father announced, standing up, I have evidence of serious financial irregularities. Sit down, Philip, Mom said, walking in. The room fell silent. She hadn't set foot in this boardroom since the divorce. Leah, he stammered, this is a closed meeting. Not anymore. She placed the metal box on the table. Since you're so interested in the company's early finances, let's talk about them. One of the men beside my father leaned forward. Ms. Schmidt, we have documentation showing our organization's stake in... You mean this documentation? I slid copies of Mom's loan repayment across the table. The stake you think you have was bought out 25 years ago. By her. The man's face darkened. That's impossible. Philip assured us. Philip assured you of many things. Lorelei's voice came through the speakers. We'd set up a video feed so she could testify. Just like he assured me about the legitimate businesses in Singapore. Should we discuss those next? My father jumped up. This is a coordinated attack. They're trying to... For once in your life, Mom cut him off, stop lying. She opened the metal box and began laying out documents, photographs, bank statements. Here's the truth. My husband started this company with borrowed money. Money I repaid by selling everything I owned. When he left us for his secretary, he tried to empty our accounts. But I'd already moved most of it because I knew. I always knew what kind of man he was. The reporters were scribbling frantically. The board members leaned in, examining the evidence. After he abandoned us, Mom continued, my daughter and I rebuilt this company, not with schemes or stolen money, but with work. Real work. She pulled out old design sketches, my teenage drawings. These are the designs that saved us. While Philip was running cons in Asia, Reese was learning the business from the ground up. Enough, my father shouted. I'm invoking the crisis clause as a founding member. You're not a member of anything anymore, Caleb interrupted, sliding forward another document. The board voted unanimously last night. Your shares are being frozen pending criminal investigation. Not of us, Philip, of you. The two men beside my father stood up abruptly. This meeting is over. Actually, Teddy said from the doorway, it's just beginning. He stepped aside to reveal two FBI agents. These gentlemen would like to discuss some international banking regulations with you. What happened next was chaos. My father tried to run, but security stopped him. His business partners were handcuffed while protesting diplomatic immunity. Reporters shouted questions as cameras flashed. Through it all, Mom stood calmly, one hand on the metal box that had protected her secrets for so long. My father looked at me one last time as the agents led him out. Reese, please, I'm still your father. No, I said quietly. You're just a cautionary tale. After the room cleared, only the board members remained. Caleb stood up. I think we've all seen enough. I moved to permanently bar Philip from any association with this company. and to formally recognize Leah's contribution to our founding history. The vote was unanimous again. Mom picked up her box. Well, that's done. I should get back to my sewing. Mom, wait. I grabbed her hand. Stay. Please. We could use your wisdom here. She smiled. You haven't needed my wisdom in a long time, sweetheart, but I'm proud of you, so proud. Whitney appeared at my shoulder. Stocks already rebounding. The market loves a good redemption story, especially one with documented proof. Speaking of documentation, Teddy added, the FBI wants to talk to Lorelei about testifying in their larger investigation. Looks like your father's friends have been running this scam across multiple companies. I touched the scissors at my neck. Will you testify, Mom? Of course, she said. It's time to close this chapter properly, with a clean cut. As we left the boardroom, reporters swarmed us again. Ms. Schmidt, how does it feel to expose your father's fraud? I looked at Mom, then back at the cameras. This isn't a story about fraud. It's a story about legacy. About how two women took a failing company and turned it into something extraordinary. My father thought he could come back and claim credit for our success, but he forgot one important thing. What's that? A reporter asked. I held up Mom's scissors. The strongest threads are the ones woven with truth. Later that night, as we celebrated at Mom's house, Whitney raised her glass. To the real Schmidt Textiles dynasty. No, Mom corrected, smiling at me. To the future. And to cutting away the past when it no longer serves us. I hugged her tight, feeling the weight of the scissors against my heart, knowing we'd finally cut the last thread binding us to my father's lies. The morning newspaper landed on my desk with a thud. Whitney pointed to the headline. Former CEO pleads guilty in international fraud case. He took the deal, she said. 10 years. Reduced if he cooperates with the ongoing investigation. I pushed the paper aside. Good, let's focus on what matters. What? We walked together to our newly renovated workshop floor. The space hummed with activity. Designers sketching, seamstresses working at modern machines, young apprentices learning the craft. At the center of it all sat Mom, teaching a group of women how to properly measure and cut fabric. Remember, she was saying, your first cut sets the pattern for everything that follows. Speaking of patterns, Whitney smiled. Show her. I pulled out the latest sales figures. Our stock had not only recovered but soared. The story of our company's true origins had resonated with people in ways we never expected. Mom, I called out. Got a minute? She finished her demonstration and joined us. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong, but I need your opinion on something. I led her to my office and unveiled the designs on my wall. Our new line. I'm calling it Legacy. She touched the sketches gently. Each piece incorporated elements from those original designs I'd drawn as a teenager, reimagined for a modern market. These are beautiful, she whispered. But why now? Because it's time to tell our story our way. Not as victims or survivors, but as creators. I pointed to the centerpiece design. See this pattern? It's based on your old scissors. A knock at the door interrupted us. Teddy entered with Samara, our youngest executive. The apprenticeship program documents are ready, Samara announced. 20 full scholarships for young women from underprivileged backgrounds, complete with mentorship and job placement. Mom's eyes welled up. You're really doing this? We're doing this, I corrected. The Leah Schmidt Foundation for Women in Business, because every daughter deserves a chance to build her own empire. Speaking of building, Whitney added, the board approved the expansion. We're converting the old storage floor into an innovation center, small business incubator, design labs, training facilities. And guess who's running it? I grinned at Mom. She shook her head. Reese, I'm retired. You're experienced, I interrupted. Who better to guide the next generation than the woman who built all this twice? Before she could protest, Caleb burst in. Turn on the news. On the screen, one of my father's former business partners was being led into court. The ticker showed their entire network crumbling, companies across Asia being investigated. That's the last of them, Teddy said. Your father's testimony opened the floodgates. I felt a weight lift that I hadn't even realized I was carrying. Mom squeezed my hand. "Now that's done," she said firmly. "Let me see those scholarship applications." We spent the rest of the morning reviewing candidates. Each story reminded me of our own. Young women fighting against odds, determined to create something meaningful. "Remember what you said in that first board meeting?" Whitney asked. "About telling our story? About transparency?" I nodded. "Well, look around. This is our real story. Not the scandal, not the revenge. This." She was right. The room buzzed with purpose. Samara explaining the mentorship program to Mom. Teddy reviewing contracts for the Innovation Center. Young designers sketching their dreams into reality. "Ms. Reese," one of the apprentices appeared at the door. "Could you help me with this pattern?" "Go," Mom smiled. "I'll handle things here." At the cutting table, I showed the young woman how to hold the scissors, how to make that crucial first cut. Her hands shook slightly, just like mine had once done. "What if I mess up?" she asked. "Then you learn from it," I said, touching the scissors at my neck. "And you try again. That's the real secret to success." Looking around the workshop, I saw not just employees, but a community. Women supporting women, experience guiding innovation, strength building strength. This was the empire I'd really been fighting for. Not one built on revenge or resentment, but on opportunity and growth. Mum joined us at the cutting table. Without a word, she adjusted the apprentice's grip slightly, nodding in approval at the clean line she cut. "Perfect," Mum said. "Now you're ready to create something new." I watched them work together, the past and future aligned in perfect symmetry. My father had tried to claim our success, but he'd never understood its true source. It wasn't in the money or the machines or even the designs. It was in moments like this. The passing of knowledge, the sharing of strength, the quiet pride of women lifting each other up. "Mom," I said softly, "I think it's time to retire these." I touched the old scissors at my neck. She smiled, understanding immediately. Together we hung them in a place of honor on the workshop wall. "For inspiration," I told the apprentice, "to remind us all where we came from and how far we can go." The scissors caught the light, their well-worn blades still sharp and true, ready to inspire the next generation of dreams.